Thank you. Thank you so much. It is good to be here. I am coming from lovely, sunny California. Although the weather here is just as beautiful right now. I'm told it's not always like this. Yesterday morning I was in Wyndham on the South Island, where it was like freezing cold. I thought I was like living among like ice giants down there. It was so cold. I thought that this morning what I'd love to do is I'd just love to share maybe a little bit of my story with you guys. And I like to say that my story starts as all good stories do with I met a girl. Her name's Rihanna. I am now married to Rihanna. But it wasn't always that case, of course. I had just moved from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, California. I was working in D.C. at a law firm and shifted law firms, and it was my first night. My bags were still in the back of my sister's car. I didn't even have a place to live yet, and my sister, she brought me to a party. I have a funny accent too, I guess, but you guys talk way funnier than I do. So everywhere I go around the world, people laugh at the way I talk. It's really funny. So a work function, how about that? It was like a gathering of people to have a jovial time. So it was actually a party, and it was on has anybody been to L.A.? Yeah, okay, great. So LA is a really beautiful city, despite what the news is going to tell you right now, And the way LA is there's like hills and mountains, and then there's like apartment buildings. And I was in one of these apartment buildings here, and then there's the city, and it's a gorgeous skyline. And then right past the city is the water. It's absolutely beautiful. And I was standing out on the balcony of this apartment building looking at like my new kingdom I was coming to conquer, and young and dumb. You guys remember the days, 24 years old, ready to take on life. And I'm looking out there, and then in the front door of this apartment walked the most amazing girl I've ever seen. I mean, not only was she beautiful, but she the way she carried herself was amazing. She was not cocky, but confident, and she was cool. Like, people wanted to talk to her and stuff. And my sister, who was younger than me, had been talking me up, saying my brother might be moving to L.A. He's really fun. She got to know him. So I had a little bit of a reputation, so she wanted to come meet the new guy on the balcony. And I'm standing on the balcony, and she walks as quick as her legs would carry her, and she walked smack into the screen door. It was incredible. Like, not only did she just like walk on this, not only did she walk into the screen door, but she like bounced off of that sucker. She fell back onto her bottom. She put her hands back like this, and she let out the most amazing laugh I've ever heard. She had me right then and there. That night, I told her I loved her. She was sitting right next to her boyfriend, and I remember thinking, What? Rise up, sucker. I'll take care of this. Because that's the type of guy I was. I was bold, and I went after the things that I wanted. And if I'm honest with you, I still am that way. It's just my affections, the things of which I go after, have changed. And eventually, I know she dropped that loser, and she started dating me. And we started having a great time. I was living in Hollywood at this time, and very early on in our relationship, Rihanna said something to me that would not just change our relationship forever, but would change me forever. Rihanna told me that she was a Christian. And my response to Rihanna was, no, you can't be one of those. You see, I wasn't a Christian, I was an atheist. Does anybody here know what an atheist is? Yes. Yeah, an atheist is somebody who doesn't believe in any God, right? And underneath my atheism was naturalism. This is the worldview I believed. The worldview of naturalism says that everything that exists is the product of a purely physical process. So I believe that all that existed is just in the physical realm. But it was more than that. I wasn't just an atheist. I wasn't just a naturalist. I was militant in my atheism and my naturalism. I was evangelical in my atheism. I wanted to stomp out Christianity. If I found out you were a Christian, this is the type of guy I was, I'd say, can I please buy you a cup of coffee? Because I need to tell you how dumb you are. Because in my mind, I thought they were dumb. I thought they were weak-minded. I thought they were followers. If you were raising your kids Christianly, I would say that was akin to child abuse. That's what I would have said to you. And Rihanna was no different, by the way. I remember having conversations with her and saying things like this. I'd say, Rihanna, I thought that you were an intelligent human being. Like, I thought you were smart. Are you telling me you believe in Adam and Eve? That's dumb. Nobody believes in Adam and Eve. It's an ancient Bronze Age myth story. Or I'd say to her, Rihanna, I thought that you were smart. Are you telling me you don't believe in Darwinian evolution. Everybody believes in Darwinian evolution. It's a scientific fact just like gravity. Now, have you guys ever heard these things before? And I would try to stomp this out of her because I was falling in love with this Christian, and I couldn't end up with one of those. I mean, how would we raise our children, right? I couldn't raise Christian children, certainly. So I tried to debate her out of her faith. And then eventually, Rihanna, she was really, really brave. And after about a couple months of us dating, she asked me to go to church with her. And now I have done crazier things for the affections of a woman than go to church. So I said, hey, hang out with me Saturday. I'll go if you want on Sunday. And now I have, at this point, had never been to church. Where I grew up in Plymouth, Massachusetts, I didn't know any Christians. I mean, I'm sure I knew a Christian, but they didn't ever talk to me about their Christianity. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I grew up in a home that is most easily categorized as like a nun home, not N-U-N, N-O-N-E-S. My parents didn't teach me either way about God. God wasn't a part of our lives. We just never talked about him. Easter was eggs, bunnies, and candy. Christmas was lights, Santa, and presents. So I had no church experience. I didn't really know any Christians as I was growing up. Never been to church in my entire life. So all I had is my preconceived notions. So if you could just for a moment put yourself in my shoes, atheist John's shoes, going to church for the first time. Now, I got saved in a charismatic church. So my first experience going to church with Rihanna that day, I'll never forget it. We pull up to the building in Studio City, California, and then we open the doors, and all I hear is music blaring out of the building. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Not only was it loud music, but it was actually good. In Studio City, California, that's where a lot of the world's talent goes to try to make it. So there was great music. The musicians clearly knew what they were doing, very, very talented. But then I listened to the words of the song. It was about blood washing over you and cleaning. I'm like, that's weird. And then over in the corner, because the charismatic church, there's a woman spinning during worship, and I'm like, oh, that's strange. And then over here, there's somebody speaking in tongues. And then I'm thinking, not only are you Christians wrong, but you're certifiably crazy. We need a psychologist to come in here and check you all out. But something else happened. As I started going to this church, I started getting to know these people. You see, Rihanna wanted to keep going, and I wanted to be with Rihanna, so we kept going to church, and I started to get to know some people. And it was crazy. They started shattering some of the preconceived notions that I had of them. Some of them were actually kind of fun to be around. I thought to be a Christian, you had to sign off and just make sure that you were lame. No fun for you if you're a Christian. Well, some of these Christians were fun. Some of them were actually smart, too. I thought Christians were dumb. Well, oh my gosh, I actually met some scientists and doctors and lawyers and culture shifters and makers, actually authors that were actually not only fun, but smart. They were shattering my preconceived notions, and they started hanging out with me where I was. Coming out to the bar. I didn't think Christians go into a bar. I thought you'd spontaneously combust if you go into a bar. Apparently you can, and I didn't realize it at the time, but what was happening is I was being not discipled, but I was being evangelized. And I thought evangelism was something you had to sign up for. It's like a program. Well, they were walking along with me. I didn't know that at the time. And then also, Rihanna, around this time, she wanted to become a member of this church. And part of the membership process is you had to meet with the pastor and his wife. So I decided to go to these membership classes with her. And I decided to go to this meeting with the pastor. And Pastor Dave Polis in Studio City, California, we went, and I prepared for 2 weeks for this confrontation. I had evidence against the existence of God with me. I brought notes and a notebook and printouts of carbon dating and why you can't trust the Bible and how evolution does away with the need for God and all of this stuff. And he looks at Rihanna and he talks to Rihanna, at the time my girlfriend, and Rihanna shares her story, which is incredible. And then Pastor Davey turns his gaze to me and he says, John, what brings you in today? And I said, oh boy, I can't wait to tell you. Because I had in my mind, if I could just debate this pastor out of his faith, I'd be like a hero of the atheist community. I could see the LA Times headlines atheist destroys pastor. I'd be a hero. So I just hammered him with questions, one after another. And we had a conversation maybe for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And he answered some of my questions, not many to my satisfaction, and he said, I don't know a lot. And at the end of the meeting, Pastor Dave, he stands up, he hugs Rihanna, he says, Rihanna, we'd love to offer you membership to the church. And then Pastor Dave, he looks at me, he puts his hand out, I shake it, and as my hand is shaking his, he looks at me in the eyes and he says, John, we have enough members right now. Thanks for coming. Totally rejected. And now I know what some of you guys are thinking, because everybody thinks this, every time I share this, sometimes people think this, is how could he reject you? You're a work in progress. You know, why wouldn't he just invite you in and see what he does? But the problem is if he had done that, he would have just proved everything that I thought church was. He would have proved it true. He would have proved the fact that he just wants my butt in his seat. He wants my buck in his coffin. He doesn't care about worldview stuff. He doesn't care about questions. He doesn't care about truth. But he didn't. He rejected me. And this is where everything started to shift and change. As he's rejecting me, he turned me around towards his bookshelf. Off of the bookshelf, he hands me a book, and it was a book on Christian apologetics. Apologetics is just a fancy word that means to offer defense for the Christian worldview. And as he's handing it to me, he says, John, you know what? I don't think I did a good job answering a lot of your questions tonight. I'm sorry for that. But I was wondering, I think in the pages of this book, you'll find the beginnings of some of those answers. Would you read it? Absolutely. So I read that book cover to cover. I read it again and again, and I read another book on Christian apologetics. And around the same time, I got a New Believer's Bible. My future in-laws gave me a New Believer's Bible, NLT translation, super easy to read. It's a study Bible, so cornerstones of the faith. Who is Jesus? Where is heaven? What is sin? These types of things. I read that Bible over the course of 3 months, cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation. And I was interacting with Christian apologetics, and in that interaction with Christian apologetics over here, God was softening my intellect. I was starting to realize that there are actually some really good answers to what I thought were insurmountable questions. But more than that, what I was coming to realize is that my atheism, my naturalism, couldn't explain the way the world really is. You see, reality is the way the world really is. This is what I teach my kids. You guys can pray for me. I got 4 daughters. I got a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 9-year-old. I am so tired. Guys, there is somebody always crying in my house, and it's usually me in the fetal position over in the corner wondering what is happening, you know? But we teach our kids Christian apologetics, we teach them worldview stuff, and then what I teach them is that reality is the way the world really is. You see, reality is fixed. Reality, it doesn't bend and contort according to your personal preferences and your likes, your dislikes. Reality is the way the world really is. And when you don't live according to reality, sometimes you bump into it. So sometimes those bumps, when you bump into them, it hurts. And as an atheist, during this time of my life, I was bumping into reality around every corner. And then this morning with the next, I was told I can go for 2.5 hours. You guys good with that? Sweet. We'll cater lunch in. It'll be amazing. No, in the next maybe 20 minutes or so, I'd love to share with you guys just a couple of those bumps, a couple of the facets of the world around me that I couldn't explain as an atheist, but that Christian theism could. And these things, along with an interaction with the Word of God and along with relationships I was building at church, led me to the foot of the cross. And the first what we say is the bump. The first part of reality that exists is what we call the bump of stuff. And sometimes as Christian apologetics, I don't know if you guys sometimes, like when we read apologists, we just make things too complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated, guys. It starts like this. Stuff exists, right? The chair you're sitting in, the podium here, the TV screens, the screens behind me, they exist. My clothes, oh my gosh, thank God my clothes exist. Could you imagine? Oh boy. Stuff exists. But we have to ask a question. Where'd all the stuff come from? Where'd all the stuff come from? The chair, the podiums, the TV, the screens, my clothes, they all have an explanation. We could look at the tags on my clothes and see where they were made. We could trace those things back to where the fabric was sourced. You know, but the bigger question is all the stuff, the universe. What caused the beginning of the universe? And not only is this not complicated, guys, it's not controversial. There's only one of 2 answers. Either something caused everything, the universe, or nothing caused everything, the universe. And this put me as an atheist in a really difficult position. Because as an atheist, I didn't want to say something caused everything. I wanted to say nothing caused everything. But who in his right mind says nothing caused everything? I mean, could you imagine living in a world where stuff pops into and out of existence out of nothing? I mean, you could be driving down the freeway, leaving Auckland, and like, so you're going, 70 kilometers an hour, and all of a sudden, poof, out of nowhere, a cow just pops into existence in front of your car. Like, does that describe the way the world is? Or think about trying to do science in a world where stuff just pops into and out of existence. You couldn't even do science. You couldn't observe the world around you because it'd be chaotic. It doesn't describe the way the world really is. You see, and I wanted to avoid everything I could to say something, because the moment you say something caused everything, that something has to have certain properties that are true about it. It has to, that something has to be immensely powerful, incredibly creative. It has to be outside of its own creation. And before you know it, that something starts to look like something specific. It starts to look like what? That's right. It starts to look like God. I did not want to say God, so I'm going to say nothing. So I'm going to say that and when I'm talking about nothing here, guys, I want you to know, like, I'm not talking about the nothing of Lawrence Krauss, right? The nothing of Lawrence Krauss is a quantum vacuum. Lawrence Krauss is a famous physicist. He wrote a book called The Universe from Nothing, and he posits that the universe came from a quantum vacuum. Now, I have a question for you. Is a quantum vacuum nothing? No, it's something. Nothing is, and this is attributed to Aristotle, nothing is that which rocks dream about. Nothing. What do rocks dream about? Nothing. Why? Because they're rocks. They're rocks, and rocks don't dream. So as an atheist, what is ultimately happening is I wanted to say everything that existed came from the dreams of rocks. That's insane. But it's more than insane. It doesn't explain the way the world really is. And this is something that we know intuitively, by the way. We know it intuitively. Like, whenever we experience something, we look for an explanation for it. For example, I took my kids a while back. I mean, we've been way more often than we should, but we go to Disneyland. Has anybody been to Disneyland by chance? So much fun, right? Happiest place on earth. Until you bring your 4 daughters and actually say no. No, you can't have that churro and everything. You know? So I'm in Disneyland. It's actually California Adventure right across the way, the other theme park there, and I'm pushing my wife and I got this amazing stroller. It's like had these 4 inflatable wheels, like, so it rolled really nicely and smoothly, and it held 2 in the seat, and 1 could stand on the back, and then I'm carrying another kid on my back, and we're wheeling that sucker around. And I go and I pack that stroller among the sea of other strollers near Maida's Wild Ride, and we're waiting in line. The lines are actually my favorite part of the theme park. I love standing in line. If I could stand in line all day, I would. Why do you guys think that is? Oh, I get to talk to people. Oh yeah, it's like a captive audience because nobody's getting out of that line. Like, so you can say whatever you want to people in line. It's amazing. So I'm talking to the guy behind me about which I don't really remember, and then out of like all of a sudden we're standing there talking. We're standing in line for about a half hour, getting towards the front of the ride, and we hear bang bang. Some of you guys just woke up. Welcome. This is church. It's Sunday morning. Now we hear these 2 bangs, and how do you think everybody reacted? They ducked. They were all asking a question. What was that? What they were asking is, what caused that? You know, notice what nobody did. Nobody's leaning against the railing and going, oh, there are those 2 bangs out of nothing. Happens all the time. No. Everybody's looking for the source of it because we know intuitively. And we actually found out what the source was when after the ride, we went back to my stroller, which I had packed in the hot California sun, and I'd overinflated the tires that morning. So both my tires popped that morning. But everybody, this is a part of the world that we know that the world is a certain way. This is reality. And when we experience something, we seek its source out. Well, the same thing is true with the Big Bang. Right? My boss, Greg Kokel, he says big bangs need big bangers. Super corny, I know. He's 73. He can say whatever he wants. You know, big bangs need big bangers. It's true. You know, this is the way the world is. So this was the first bump. Are you guys picking up what I'm throwing down? The bump of stuff. Where'd all the stuff come from? You see, my naturalism, it couldn't explain where everything came from because all I had to start with was nothing. But on Christian theism, you have more than nothing. You have an uncaused cause, a big banger. So that's the first bump. That's the bump of stuff. The bump of bad. This was the most difficult bump for me. It still is, if I'm being honest. It still is. I don't know if this is working up here. That's fine. I knew certain things were wrong, right? I knew, for example, like what happened in Nazi Germany was wrong. But the question is what did I mean when I said it was wrong? What did I mean when I said that what happened in Nazi Germany was wrong? You know, I meant these things were evil, they were wicked, they were actually wrong, they ought not happen. And notice, I wasn't describing my emotions about these things. I was describing the actions themselves. I was saying what happened in the furnaces of Auschwitz was wrong. And then this became a reality for me. I had the opportunity to go to Auschwitz. And has anybody been to Auschwitz by any chance? It's unbelievable. It'll change you. I highly recommend going. I had the opportunity to go and see some of the exhibits. Now, when I was going to Auschwitz, I got picked up at like a hotel. And when I got picked up on the bus already was it was me and this group of, a small group, maybe 12 Irish men, like young men, you know, like 18 to 25. And they were like the rowdiest group of people I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, they were all like mini Conor McGregors. Like they were like fighting each other on the bus. If I didn't know any better, it was like 6:30 in the morning. I thought they were already drunk. Like they were like throwing each other over the seats. I'm a girl dad, so any physical activity makes me feel weird. So I'm sitting in the front like, don't touch me, you know. And these guys are wrestling and stuff like this, and they're being super rowdy. And we're getting off the bus. Finally, we get from Krakow to Auschwitz, and we get off, and then they're like kicking each other down the stairs on the bus. And we go and we stand in front of the gates. And what do you think happened to their behavior? Completely leveled out. These guys who were rowdy for more than an hour, yelling at each other and fighting, they didn't need to be told to be quiet. They didn't need to be told, calm down. They just knew. Because they knew that what they were about to step into was weighty, and it was weighty how? It was weighty in a moral way. And I remember standing in front of one exhibit. This is an exhibit, if you could picture, about the length of this stage, actually, maybe a little bit longer. There's a glass-topped table, and in that glass-topped table, beneath that glass, were children's playthings, children's toys. Each one of them representing a child, and this always sticks with me. This is a porcelain doll. You can see her face is kind of shattered, and she's got the shoes over there. She's wearing the shorts, the plaid shorts, and the hair is up in the corner there. The reason why this sticks with me is because I'm a girl dad. This doll right here actually belonged to a real girl at a real time. And what these toy things represent, what these playthings represent is in Nazi Germany, on the economy of the Nazi Germans, children meant nothing. They were worthless. So if they survived the transport car, the cattle car, if they got to Auschwitz, they were sort of left not right, straight to the gas chambers. And then I got to see those gas chambers. This is an actual picture of one of those gas chambers. The Nazis, there were two that mirrored each other across the hall. They would pile people in there, pack it full of people. They would pop a canister of gas. They'd throw it in. They'd wait on average 13 minutes for everybody inside to suffocate to death. And when the screaming stopped, when the clawing at the walls and the door stopped, they would open it up. They'd air that room out, and then they'd remove each one of those bodies, and they put it on one of these. I don't know how to describe these other than sleds. You can see there's a big drum there, and that's kind of like at the end of the sled. They put the body towards the brick. The brick is a kiln furnace. They would put people on that sled, and they pushed those lifeless bodies into that furnace, which raged and consumed bodies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the entirety that Auschwitz was open. The fire would consume those bodies and turn them into smoke and ash. The smoke would rise out of this smokestack, which is in the middle of this hill. The gas chamber in that sled was right below that. The thing that one of the things that sticks out the most to me is if you go past that tree that's over in the corner there, you go about maybe 300 meters, and you go past the razor wire fence, you go past the electrified fence. On the other side of that fence is a house, a beautiful house, a mansion, made out of brick with a swimming pool. The people in that house remained occupied the entire time Auschwitz was open, and they never complained, not once, about the screams. They didn't complain about the smell of burning flesh. They didn't complain about anything that was going on behind there, except for one thing. The Nazis have record of them submitting a letter to the leadership at the camp complaining that the ash of the consumed bodies was falling on their swimming pool, ruining their summertime parties. Who says that? Who does that? You see, we all know that's wrong. We all know what happened in Auschwitz is wrong, even a bunch of rowdy Irishmen. You see, I want to draw something out here. I want to show you something really important. This is the difference between objective and subjective morality. You see, morality is objective in nature. There's a law and there's a lawgiver behind that. That's why we know things are wrong. As an atheist, I had no standard, though, because I had no standard giver. I had no law because I had no lawgiver. I was the master of my own ship. As an atheist, that's all you have is yourself. But when we say, so morality, according to the atheist, morality is just a matter of personal preference and opinion, ultimately. But when we say what happened in Auschwitz is wrong, we know it's a different statement than I hate Brussels sprouts. They're not the same type of thing. What happened is actually wrong, and we all know it because we all experience it. This is oftentimes known as the problem of evil, and this was my light-out argument against the existence of God. And what's turned out to be my most potent argument against his existence is now, I think, one of the best arguments for his existence. Because if we say something is evil, we have an idea of what's good. And if we can differentiate between evil and good, that means there has to be a standard by which to judge the two apart. And if there's a standard, we need a standard giver outside of ourselves. That's the bump of bad. You guys tracking with me? Yeah. One more bump, 2 more hours. We're almost there. The next facet of reality that I want to talk about, and this is really where the rubber meets the road for me, is what I call the bump of me. And this is the existence of the soul. As Christians, I don't think we talk enough about the soul, and we should. Why? Because it's a huge problem for the atheist. John, what do you mean about this by the soul? Well, this is, it's simple. I believe that, I don't believe, the soul is that immaterial aspect of yourself. Some people, they want to call it consciousness to maybe avoid any spiritual implication. But the soul is that thing that you're aware of every waking moment of every single day. Your soul is that thing you interact with. It's you think to it. You know, and some of you right now are thinking about what you're going to go get for lunch. Pie, oh my goodness, meat pies. We don't have those in America. They're unbelievable. I could eat 12 meat pies. I bet you I could eat more meat pies than anybody here. Oh. And I would be willing to put that to the test if you pay. We need to talk more about the soul because it's a huge problem. Because as a naturalist, remember I said that everything that exists is in the physical world. Your soul, your consciousness is not physical. I want to talk about 3 aspects of the soul before I wrap this up. 3 things about the soul. The first is that souls are real. We all have one, and I can prove it. Prove it to me, John. No problem. Okay, everybody close your eyes. Don't fall asleep. Okay, close your eyes. Seriously, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Experiment. I want you to picture right now, I want you to picture a green grass field, like the greenest grass field you've ever seen. When you can see that green grass field, would you just raise your hand for me? Okay, put your hands down. Now keep your eyes closed. I'll tell you when to open them. Now you're walking through that green grass field, and now I want you to bend down. I want you to pick up a clump of that grass. You feel it snap, and you have it in your hand. When you have that grass in your hand, just raise your hand for me. Great, okay, hands down. Now I want you to roll that grass in between your forefinger and your thumb, and I want you to lift it up to your nose and smell that fresh cut grass smell. When you can smell it, raise your hand for me. Okay, put your hands down. Now open your eyes, guys. Look at me. I have a question for you. Is that piece of grass closer to your right ear or your left? Some of you are, huh? The appropriate response is, huh? It's actually a category mistake. It doesn't make sense. The question I asked you doesn't make sense because that piece of grass doesn't extend itself in the physical realm. It doesn't exist in between your ears. It exists immaterial in your soul. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, for example, like some people are going to say, oh, well, it's the brain juices, right? It's all the brain juices that are flowing. No, it's not. Because your brain juices, they don't possess the same qualities of that grass. The brain juices don't have a greenness to them. It's like asking, what does the note C sharp taste like? Some of you are like, sour grape. No, it doesn't taste because notes don't taste. And grass, you envision in your soul. And I want you to notice the power of the soul, this thing that we all possess. Almost all of you could see the grass. Most of you could touch it. A lot of you could smell it. And I bet you if I asked, some of you knuckleheads could have tasted it and told me what it tastes like. We can engage all of our senses in our souls. We all have them. They're real, but not only are they real, souls are special. We all know that human beings are special. They're valuable. That's why we cry out for justice in the face of injustice. But as an atheist, I couldn't ground this on my worldview. On atheism, there's no reason to believe human beings are more special than anything else. Because on atheism, all we are is matter in motion. Random quantification of molecules dance into our DNA. Don't believe me, read The Atheist. After all, it's Richard Dawkins, one of the world's most famous atheists, that says that the universe that we observe has precisely the qualities that we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no good, no bad, no justice, nothing but pitiless indifference. Thomas Hobbes in Leviathan says that life is solitary, poor, short, brutish, and nasty. Get busy living, get busy dying. Who cares which one? But does that describe reality? Are we just more evolved primates, just in robots in motion, moist robots? No. We know people are special. We know it. And on my atheism, I had a struggle with this because I thought we were just cosmic junk. I thought that we had no purpose. On atheism, life means nothing outside of anything that we want to arbitrarily assign it. There's nothing on atheism that will ultimately satisfy our hunger for purpose or our desire for justice. Nothing ultimately matters. But this wasn't the testimony of my soul. I knew life had meaning. I knew people were valuable and they ought not be violated. I knew something else too. I knew not only are souls real, not only are they special, but they're broken. My conscience, my soul testified to the knowledge that not only is the world out there broken, I'm so quick to complain about the brokenness out there, but that same brokenness that's out there, it's in here too. I realized at a certain point that not only am I a victim, but I realized I was a victimizer. I realized that naturalism, it couldn't explain the beauty and the wonder of being human. It has no answer to human brokenness. Naturalism has no offer of forgiveness. Can I just say something? It might be controversial. I don't know. It's controversial in the United States right now. The more I do this, I've been speaking publicly like this for 7 years. I've been pastoring for more than a decade. The more I get to know people, there's a common thread, and that is that everybody knows that they're guilty. They do. We all have this sense of guilt in us, if we're honest. And we go through such great lengths as a culture and a society to either numb it through or explain it away. But can I just say something? Maybe the reason why we feel guilty is because we are. This should not be controversial. We feel guilty because we are. But on naturalism, what offer of forgiveness do I have? None. At most, human effort. But have you ever realized that how do you work? It doesn't ever solve the ultimate problem of life. The how do you work? It doesn't ever offer you forgiveness. But you know what offers forgiveness? The Christian worldview. Jesus offers forgiveness. You see, Jesus solves that problem that every single person wrestles with deep down inside in their soul. This is a huge problem for me. And in unguarded moments, I would let the desire for things to be made right, not just out there, but in here, slip. Friends, we all have to live in the world that God made. Whether you believe in him or not, God exists. So these are the aspects that I bumped into as an atheist of the world around me that I couldn't explain. But on every corner, Christian theism offered those explanations I so desperately needed. On every corner, Christian theism answered life's most important questions of origin, meaning, purpose, destiny, morality. All of them finding satisfying answers in the person and the work of Jesus Christ. And he changed my life. Sometimes I'll be asked, John, can you just tell me why you're a Christian and sum it up real quick? Some of you are like, man, I wish you did this up front and then you could have more time at lunch. If somebody asks me why I'm a Christian, I only have a minute, this is what I say. I say, I'm a Christian because I met a girl who bumped into a door. And then I bumped into reality when I went looking for life's most important answers to life's most important questions. Friends, I've been saying this all over the 2 islands that make up New Zealand. I've loved my time here. I've been here for almost 2 weeks. I've given 20 talks. I've gone to 8 different cities in 12 days. The reason why I'm a Christian, it's not because it's gained me anything. I used to work at a law firm. I used to make money. It was amazing. Money's fun. I like money. It certainly hasn't gained me friends. A lot of my friends I can't hang out with anymore. My whole family thinks I'm crazy. I'm the only Christian in my family. My mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, their families, all of them are atheists. They think their favorite word for me is deluded. Who's deluded, though? I'm a Christian for one reason and one reason only. I'm a Christian because it's true. I'm a Christian because it's the true story of reality. Let me pray. Father, I thank you for the opportunity to share just a little time with my brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters brought together not by our own blood or DNA, but by the blood of your Son. Even though we seem like a world away here, a 13-hour flight away, we are drawn together this Sunday morning. What a special day of the week it is. We are drawn together under your banner, brothers and sisters, called out of darkness and into your marvelous light. Lord, would you let this never become old news to us? And our goal here is simple, Lord. It's not to memorize arguments. It's not just to go out into the world and be smarter than everybody else. It's our goal this morning to just look a little bit maybe more like your Son. So I pray that through the training this evening and then today, as we all head to wherever we live, as we lay our heads down on our cool pillows tonight, would we look just a little bit more like Jesus? So then we're a little bit more prepared, a little bit more equipped to go out into the world and reflect the glory that's only seen in the face of Jesus and show people the amazing riches found in you and your Son through the Holy Spirit. Help us love you more and each other better. In Christ's name, amen. Thank you, guys.